Every one of us, me, you, everyone listening to this, we all have this one thing that constantly keeps coming up in our mind. It's our inner self talking to us about what we want our life to be, how we want it to be, and what we want to be doing. Visualize that. And you don't need to try too hard because every now and then that's playing out in your mind. All you need to ask yourself is, what is it that you need to do to make that come to life? Just listen to that voice, visualize what you want to go after, and it'll happen by itself. Ask yourself, what is it that I need to do to get this picture in my mind to make it a picture in real life? Once you have that clarity, as cliched as it sounds, just do it.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. That was Navneeth Krishna, and he's the 12th man at the Royal Challengers Bangalore. He had a passion to pursue sports commentary, sports hosting, sports anchoring, and you know what? He went for it by quitting his corporate job at Google. And guess what? Now he's one of the most prominent faces when it comes to sports anchoring, emceeing, and hosting. And yeah, also sports commentary as well. So yeah, in this episode, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about how it's super fulfilling to merge your passion and your career, how one can try things out at their corporate job and get the sort of exposure to either sharpen their skills or pursue their passions, how worrying, hard work and hustle really never stops even after you're broken into the industry, and most importantly, how your mind is your worst enemy and how you need to be mindful about making sure that it does not affect you in the long term. So yeah, I can't wait for you guys to check out this episode, shot and recorded here at the Creator Studio at the Hub Bengaluru. And let me know your thoughts on what you think of this particular episode or the show in general in the comments below. Or consider even dropping me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. Cool then, let's get right into it. This is episode 22 with Navneeth Krishna. A lot of people want to give advice, right? And especially based on what they would have learned, right? But it comes down to what is probably close to you. And I think we were talking about this as well, right? And you said that there's so many things that we can talk about. But at the end of the day, I think people tend to take away what the situation they might be in at that point. And also, I think maybe in a situation that they want to be in the future. Right? If you think about it, those kind of joining the dots happens from that perspective. So even when I was talking to you that day, I realized there's just so much that's common between the two of us.
Yeah, I know.
Which is the fact that we were in corporate job. We took away a lot from that job. We took a sabbatical. We're relying on our wives for a lot of things.
Of course we are.
which is crazy stuff, right? So I actually, when I was talking to you on the phone that day as well, I was telling you, right, like how my wife's a sounding board, and she heard that and she came over and hugged me, and I was, that was just crazy, which is
feels nice.
Yeah, and then I think that's a good place to start, which is we don't normally do this, but this is great because we have already spoken a little bit about this, right? The importance of having someone who you can always like fall back on, right? What have you seen there? Have you seen something? I mean, of course you have, but maybe take us through that. What have you seen when it comes to your wife being, let's say, the sounding board or your support?
So the beauty about this is that other person does not need to understand the industry, or she doesn't need to know the sports broadcasting space or the commentary space for that matter. Because what I'm talking to her is an issue that she might face in a corporate job, or that I've faced in a corporate job before, or that I face here, or anyone faces in any industry. It's about, how do I find more opportunities, or what gets me motivated? How do I keep going? What is my next thing? So we're just making logical decisions, right? Sometimes it's emotional as well. And that is the best part. So she doesn't need to know everything that the industry has to offer or the nuances involved. But at the end of the day, it's a topic that is universal. Everyone can relate to it. And that makes it easy for me to have a conversation with her. But to your question about what does it mean to have her play a role in this, frankly, I'm sitting here because of her, right? When you have two people earning and then suddenly you go to half an income, it isn't easy. But then we had to put that math down on paper and realize that, you know what? Okay, it looks like the numbers are fine. Her moving from India to Singapore meant that it compensated for me not earning because you're just earning in a different currency. Right. And it meant that we could continue paying the bills and live a certain lifestyle that we have been doing so far. And all of that is the more logical part of it. We had to put down the finances, like I said. Timing wise, was it a good time for us to make that decision? We felt right because we don't have kids and it was just easier for us to take this risk. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure it would have been a lot tougher.
Right.
And so we did all of that. And it was, and she's the more logical one between the two of us. I'm the more emotional one, saying, you know, I'm the feel and she's the think. Okay. If you get what I'm saying. And so we put down all those pointers, and that's when she said, we can either continue living this life where we can obviously earn more money, but we live the corporate life. Or we can continue to have this lifestyle that we have at the moment, but also have one of us go after something that we've been dreaming about. And that's when she told me that, you know what, 8 or 9 out of 10 people often don't have clarity about what they want to do in life, and which is why we end up doing what we do on a daily basis. You're one of those few who does have that clarity. Why are we wasting time? Why are we not giving this a shot? Let's go do this. Even if it means you have to quit a job at Google, let's give this a shot. Right. And so she's the one who pushed me to do this. And to your point about what role does she play, not just did she push me to take this call, she's the one who's been the breadwinner for the family. And there are times when your mind goes all over the place when you're trying.
Every day, dude. Every day.
Exactly. And it's like I'm preaching to the choir when I'm talking to you, because you're going through exactly that. And she keeps me sane during those times. So what she brings to the table is a lot more than I can ask for. I'm forever grateful for everything that she's doing. And this is our little dream. It's not just mine. Every time I get a new gig, I kid you not, she's as excited as I am, or if not more, right? And she sometimes has more belief in my ability than myself, because sometimes I'm doubting myself, like, should I do that? Can I do that? But she's like, of course you can. And so that's reassurance in many ways. So yeah, in so many ways, so much to be grateful for. And we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
Perfect, dude. But how did you guys even reach that point? I mean, for instance, you said that you had clarity. And I think we've spoken about that on the show multiple times, which is with engineers, right? What we have noticed for the most bit is they quit their jobs and they do something that's in these weird categories or niches, right? Or you see people who are in those niches who have always known they want to be there.
Yeah.
Right? It's just these two categories. Either people who have taken that leap, and this is because people don't necessarily know what they want to do with their lives. Yeah. It's like you said, right? Not clear about what they want to do. And there's a lot of people who know that they might have multiple things, numerous things that they want to do, right? Especially when you were during your childhood, right? I think this is another thing that's an ongoing topic on our show, which is our parents push us to try a lot of things when you're younger, which is so important because that kind of gets you to understand where your passion might truly lie. So that way, some of them get, I won't say conflated, but it's a little confused when they maybe hit puberty and they're like, okay, I'm good at football, but I'm also good at singing, but at the same time, I'm good at this. And then it's confusion, and then you end up at a corporate job and you're not really sure how to.
And you don't take any of those paths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the latter where they're like, I have no idea what I have to do with my life. I really don't know what I should be doing at all. And then end up doing the same, the desk job.
Yeah.
But then there's just some of these people, and I feel we are on that path, at least I can see that. And you have been doing this for like 3 years now, which is great. But what do you say to a person who is confused, in that area, right? How do they find that sort of, let's say, guidance or the direction that they need to find what they're truly looking for? Because mostly it's the 20s, if you notice, where people are, okay, so I think it's high time I figure out what I need to do. Yeah. So what did you have to say for those kind of people? Because,
That's a tough one. I would say I'm a little lucky in identifying something that I really liked. But here's the thing: in a few chats that I did host at Google, there was a couple of really good pieces of career advice that I took back from a couple of senior leaders at Google. One of it was something that really, really stuck with me. It was, I'm not too sure, I think a senior VP from Dublin was visiting and I was hosting him for a fireside chat, and there was an audience of Googlers around us. And my last question to him was, what's your career advice to everyone sitting in this room? Because we're a bunch of youngsters and Google being Google. And I think what he told me really stuck with me. Basically, what he said is, look at your career as a pyramid, okay? Years 20 to 30 is the base of the pyramid, which is the broadest. Years 30 to 40 is a little narrower, and years 40 to 60 is the right at the top of the pyramid, which is when you really cash in. It's that one job that you believe that you are good at, and you're going to cash in for those 20 years. The bottom base is the broadest because years 20 to 30 is when you need to just try everything that you want to try. Don't look at the money part of it, and don't look at promotions and growth, but try to diversify and try different things as possible. And you might try 6 to 7 things in those 10 years. And then the next 10 years, which is 30 to 40, you narrow it down to the 2 or 3 things. And that final 20 years is that one thing that you know you're good at, you're going to cash in. And that's when the money really, really comes in, right? So, and that stuck with me. And in Google, I managed to move around a few roles and few jobs. And that's the beauty about working for a company like Google. And so that's something that if there is someone watching this and you're asking yourself, should I try something new? I'll be honest with you. The easiest answer to that is please give it a shot. There is no reason for you to not try that at all, right? And I've learned this firsthand. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And the second thing is, if you are skeptical or scared that you have a full-time job and you don't want to do this, and you don't have clarity about how you can take a full leap into something else, you don't need to quit your job to do something else. We live in this wonderful digital world, or a place where you're able to do your day job and already start exploring new opportunities. And it's beautiful because once you start realizing, okay, you know what, I'm going to get into, I'm not too sure what it is. It's probably baking. You want to get into beatboxing. You have a dad's business that you want to explore, or your desk job is something that you're exploring while you're doing something else. You can do multiple things, or you're a fitness trainer, you're a yoga trainer, a Zumba instructor, whatever be the case. If you have a day job, you can explore this, and sooner rather than later, you'll start realizing if it is something that you like or no. If it is something that you like, naturally you start investing more time, and that snowballs into something bigger. It might take 10% of your time in a day to day, but you'll realize over 6 months, it's taking 40% of your time because you're naturally investing more time because you like it. You're starting to grow. You're meeting new people. Automatically, it's snowballing into something bigger. And the time that you're spending on your day job just marginally decreases, right? And so that's one way of finding out what you really like. Try out new things. Today, you might be trying out something, but 2 years later, you might realize that it's something else that you want to do. Do that. All I'm saying is whatever you want to explore, especially within the age of, let's say, 18 to 30, 35, give it a shot, and there is no looking back. When I quit, I had nothing on my plate. All I knew was this is something that I like doing. I love commentary. I love the game of cricket, and I like holding the mic and presenting. I'm going to give this a shot. So one is some sort of clarity in terms of what I wanted to do. And two was a little bit of belief in my own abilities that I can do this. And that's also important, right? One is you wanting to do something. The other is you must be realistic and reasonable about whether you can do this as well. We all want to be Virat Kohli.
Yeah.
We all want to be, we all want to be playing for the Indian cricket team. But I only go that far when it comes to playing. But I got a little bit of reassurance from folks around me when they saw me holding the mic and hosting and stuff, saying that, you know what, you could actually do this. And so it was a combination of me having clarity of what I want to do and also what I bring to the table in that particular aspect that eventually helped me take that plunge. Right? So, and you'll only know that once you start doing it. And that's why I'm saying, take the plunge, do it. There's nothing, there is no, and we were discussing this, there is no right time to start something.
Yeah.
There is no wrong time to start something as well, right? So just start, and you'll realize that that's the best decision. When I quit and when I wanted to start my YouTube channel, I did everything, all the groundwork. The video was edited. I had to quite literally upload it, okay? And I called up Deepthi, my wife, that night and said, I'm just really skeptical of putting myself out to the world. I don't want to do this.
So she uploaded for you.
No, I did it. I eventually did it. And when I look back, I'll be honest, every other opportunity that came my way was because of me starting that YouTube channel. It's a dormant channel at the moment. I'm not creating content actively. But at that time, when I did what I had to, I look back and I'm glad that I hit that upload button.
Yeah.
And I speak about this quite often. Sometimes we just have to do it. You just do it. As cliched, as Nike as it sounds, just do it. Sometimes you'll look back and you'll thank yourself for doing it.
Right.
And every now and then when you want to change what you're doing because you don't like it, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
We're still in that phase where we're exploring what we like. So explore, give it a shot. You're never going to regret it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So actually, two things I want to really dive deep into what you mentioned. One being where you said you really explore things, and I think that the age where you either have joined a college or you're graduating are, I'd say, the prime years where you can really invest your time into all these, primary, secondary, tertiary, so many areas, and then really understand what to hone in on later on in life, right? But yeah, another thing, we'll get down to that in a bit, but what you mentioned is, and I think we spoke about this over a call as well, which is you tried your hand at multiple things at Google, right? You donned so many hats, and at the same time, you also tried anchoring and hosting events there. And that's what gave you that nudge or the push or the confidence itself to, like you said, to understand what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
That's so keen and so important, right? It's key and it's important because at the end of the day, if, like you said, you can go and pitch and sell yourself to whichever agency it is, but in that pitch itself, they'll get to know what is the kind of effort that you have put in.
Yeah.
And that's why I think those interviews are so key, right? People go prepared for interviews, but they don't realize that interviews are you preparing for it years on together, right? It's how you put together words. It's how you let your thoughts flow into words. It's, it comes down to that, right? So what are again, I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of that as well. And where even when I was with my corporate job, I didn't stop playing football, and I used to play football at a decent level before. I used to play for HL earlier, right? I decided I'm going to do something with the company I was part of and do something with football that was not heard of before. So I did that. I conducted a national level tournament. We also got an opportunity to travel to Prague, but it didn't finally happen due to multiple reasons. But, we decided to explore that. But having said that, I'm sure even you would have gotten a lot of these instances where you got a chance to either create something out of nothing and then create something in the space of sports commentary, which would complement sports itself. So what have you done there to kind of get you to this spot? How have you slowly put in money into that piggy bank and, kind of grown that, let's say, that skill over, let's say, the course of Google itself? Because I'm sure you would have had a lot of commentary and a lot of hosting as part of these smaller events. Or I think you mentioned a few fireside sort of events as well, right? So yeah, I think a lot of people, I'm sure, who are at their desk jobs might be thinking, hey, I'm at a company where we don't have this. But it comes down to how you create it too, right? So yeah.
No, it's a good point that you bring up. Luckily, Google gave me those opportunities. So in terms of monetary investment, I didn't really have to do anything because they were like, you know what, this event's coming up. We're looking for a host. And I'm glad whenever I did put up my hand, I did, because they said, okay, you give it a shot, do it. And to my surprise, the audience reacted very well to it. It was, it's funny, the first time I hosted something at Google was called a Fun Do Manager Awards. And typical Google, where it's an awards program where you're making fun of your managers. So it's fun awards.
You're roasting them.
Yeah, we're roasting managers. We're roasting managers and giving away awards to them. It was ridiculously funny. And so me and my friend were the hosts for that. And it turned out to be an absolute riot. It was amazing. I remember that day very well because it was also the same day Sachin scored 200 and he became the first ever batsman to score a double 100 in an ODI, and it was against South Africa. So cricket again.
Yeah.
I just have to bring...
It's probably the jokes you guys cracked that got him to do that.
I don't know what it is, but so I remember that, and it was Google that gave me those opportunities. So that one event, when I was happy, like I said, I put up my hand and they said, give it a shot. That led to me then hosting the India Google conference. Then I did the next conference that came by the next time, multiple fireside chats when senior leaders were visiting India, the Google Cricket League, Football League, Basketball League. So I would commentate there. And so I did have enough opportunities to hold the mic. And that's when my love for just anchoring, emceeing, commentating, hosting grew more and more. And it started to grow on me. And that's when I started to realize, you know what? This is something that I like. Cricket has always been close to me. Let's do this.
Right.
Let's give it a shot.
Right.
So that's how it happened for me.
Right.
Now, to your question about for someone that does not have the opportunity, what can you do? And I guess that's the majority of folks.
Right.
We're doing this content. No one's given you a gig. This is something that you are doing. And it's the beauty of the digital space that we live in today. You pick up your phone and you can shoot content. So you don't need someone to hire you to do a job or give you a gig. You can start putting out your content yourself. All you need is like a phone, a tripod, and a mic, quite literally. And whatever that is, even if it means you're baking, you're a baker, start recording stuff of things that you're doing and put it online. The word's going to spread. If what you're giving them is something that they like, we know how wildfire content is today, right? It can go really, really viral. So if you're a fitness instructor, a yoga trainer, if you're a photographer, quite literally everything can be attached to the social media world, which is the space that we live in quite literally. And that will give everyone an opportunity to see the work that you do. So automatically you have a very broad audience. Right? For that, you just need to start doing. So don't wait for your company to give you something. If there is something that you want to do, start doing it yourself and use the advantages and the opportunities that the digital world gives you. It's amazing, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the biggest content creators we see today are self-made influencers / celebrities, right? They started from nothing at all, and today, from YouTubers, they're now maybe locking horns with the Bollywood industry, with the Hollywood industry. It's amazing to see the opportunities that come your way once you just start putting yourself out there. So no matter what you're interested in, one way to look at it is that I don't have opportunities. How do I create opportunities? The other way to look at it is, okay, who do I talk to? Let me go talk to that first person. Then he'll connect me to another person. Automatically, that network just goes from start to so much more.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're already getting yourself deep into what you want to be doing.
Absolutely.
I guess that's the best way to start.
Sure. Yeah. And I think what you just mentioned is also important, which is the moment you start doing something, so many doors open up, right? So you for instance, started creating content on YouTube, which, like you said, right now is a little dormant. It's not something you're doing too much right now.
Yeah.
But if you never did that then, there's no way you'd be here right now.
Exactly.
Right? Even I'll tell you, with the kind of content we're creating here, right? I'm very new to video. I'm very new to audio. I'm very new to all of this. Just content creation in general. But I've started getting a lot of inquiries for video production gigs.
Nice.
Which is crazy, right? And now I'm actually considering it because I'm like, okay, I have the equipment.
Yeah.
I have the expertise also to some degree. Yeah. And I think if I can shoot such nice looking cinematic B-rolls,
why not?
I think
then?
I can even shoot a few nice videos for these clients. So we're at this phase where we are having to, we are kind of trying to figure out if we should say yes or no to these clients. Or maybe something that will work well with what we're doing here too, right? In terms of time and management and all of that. But yeah, it's so true, and it's something that most of my guests talk about, which is they probably started in one line, and then slowly things opened up in another, and then next thing you know, you are part of a completely different industry
Yeah.
because you have started doing something else. Like content creation is not sports commentary on any lines, but then I think you were trying to bridge that gap, or at least create that sort of I don't know, you had that excitement, that flair that you brought to the table, right? I'm sure someone would have noticed you, and I'm sure you got gigs from that, right? Did you get a lot of inquiries from the kind of content you put out there?
Exactly. Everything that came afterwards was because of where I started, right? And I didn't do it for the views. I didn't do it for it to go viral on YouTube or Instagram for that matter. All I did was IPL 2018. I had two choices. I could either just sit back and watch the IPL like I always do and enjoy it, or I quit Google. I had nothing on my plate. I didn't have a portfolio. So I said, here's my opportunity to just start creating some content, put myself out there and give people a sense of what I bring to the table. So Instagram has a 59-second video limit. So what I did was something called Quick Single, obviously a reference to cricket. In a single minute, a recap of every IPL game, right? So if you didn't have time to go through a full IPL game for 3.5 hours, while you're scrolling through your Instagram and you hit bed in the night, you could just get a quick recap of what happened in that game, right? So 70 videos for 70 matches. I didn't miss a match. I had to be consistent. I put it out. Didn't go viral. It probably got a few hundred views, whatever it is. That's about it.
But did you post it on the same day as the match?
Yeah.
Wow.
Later
That's
that night
crazy.
or the early in the morning. So as soon as possible. So as soon as the match is done, I'm waiting in the studio with the setup ready and I would shoot. Then my editor will edit it and I'll upload it as soon as it's done. Either late in the night or first thing in the morning.
Wow.
Right? So when I look back, I sometimes laugh at the videos. It's just nostalgic in many ways. But to your question, it always, especially in the content space, dude, you have no idea where the opportunities come from.
Right.
When I quit Google, the only visibility that I had was Star Sports, and I wanted to be on TV.
That's it. Just
That's
Star.
it. Because it was the only thing that we were aware of, right? How do I get to Star Sports? How can I be a presenter on TV? Right? And that was the only thing on my mind. And I auditioned with them a couple of times. I got rejected for kabaddi, for football, for cricket. So I've done it all. I've auditioned with quite a few folks. Then I start to realize the beauty that is the digital world, right? So I started with YouTube, put out my content. For what it's worth, that led to me getting a little school tournament, a fabulous school tournament. I enjoyed doing that as a commentator over there. That led to the Karnataka Premier League as an MC, and because they were the same organizers. And that's the beauty of it, right? Suddenly the word travels. And next thing you know, someone's aware of the work that you do and what you bring to the table. And it was because of all of this that I did that I got the Everest Premier League gig in Nepal. The Everest Premier League is Nepal's version of the Indian Premier League. So it's very similar to the IPL. And it is a massive tournament. It's their biggest T20 tournament. And it was always my dream to be in the commentary box, commentating on a game of cricket, and to do it alongside former international cricketers for the very first time. And this was 1 year, quite literally a year after I'd quit Google, it was special. It was a dream come true. And Deepthi was sitting in Singapore. She was sitting at home. And I was there opening the event in Nepal at the ground in Kathmandu. And it was very special. It was an emotional moment for both of us. And I guess it's moments like this that we live for, right? Because we let go of a lot. We have compromised and sacrificed on quite a bit. And some tough days you have to get through. But it is those little moments that make it worth it, right? And if you would have asked me 3 years before that, Nav, you're going to be the face of RCB's 12th Man TV, you're going to be with ICC's digital, it's like, are you serious? Because I was thinking Star and TV, that's the only thing that I had clarity or visibility to, right? So you start to realize that a sponsor or some brand is interested to put in some money, they'll come in. The opportunities are endless. They'll just come from everywhere possible. Yeah. And you just have to put yourself out there, consistently create content, put your face out there. So even at the expense of you, how do I say it?
Goofing up?
Not even goofing up, but sometimes even if someone's like, oh man, this guy's always putting up something, it's okay.
Okay.
That way, even if
Yeah.
it's the extent of doing it a little too much, that's absolutely fine. But just be consistent, constantly put yourself out there. The opportunities will come. And so today, Star Sports is one of the opportunities that I'm going after. It was the only opportunity that I was going after 3 years back.
Yeah.
But I understood the industry a little more. I understood what else is available as an opportunity. What is it that I bring to the table? Maybe digital is what I like more versus something else. So I started to understand the space in more detail, and you'll realize that the more and more deeper you get into the water, you'll start to realize this space much better,
Yeah.
and what opportunities are good for you.
Right.
But to your point, it'll just come from everywhere. Just start. Just do it. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my dude. I mean, I can relate to this at so many levels. Like
yeah.
even so, when I quit my job, right, I quit it to not do any of this. It was
Yeah.
to start a business in the F&B line, right. One, I decided to do the company in an entirely offline space where I'm coming from a tech background, right? And I know everything online.
Yeah.
So I think most of them in my space, and I notice a lot of guys quitting who are entrepreneurs or at least wanted to be business folks, right? Who quit the job because they wanted to utilize the skills that they've learned there
Yeah.
and kind of double down and create something of their own, which is great, which is awesome. They know they have clarity, which is awesome. I personally felt that I wanted to understand the business aspect of things and really understanding the operations bit, the ground level bit, understand behind the scenes, and then figure out how tech can come in, right? A lot of people start with tech. A lot of people do the other thing too. There's no right or wrong to any of this, right? So I decided to go behind that. It's only when I got into that is when I realized what the industry is even like.
Exactly.
It's easy for us to sit here and say, hey, Swiggy's doing this and we're getting food like,
But what goes on behind
oh my
the
God,
scenes is
dude.
insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, 6 months in, Swiggy became our partner. So initially we started off catering to the corporate audience where Swiggy can be seen as somewhat of a competitor. Eventually word spread and these guys reached out and said, hey, why don't we collaborate at a different level altogether, which is great. So it's something like you said, you always had your eye on the prize, which is Star Sports, right? But then what you didn't realize is there's so many other things too. And if I kept thinking, hey, Swiggy is a competitor, I can't engage or should probably be heading and steering clear of that entire space. But then I embraced the entire concept of collaborating itself. And that's because I understood the industry. Right. And I think it's only when you get started, when you start doing, is when you really understand how things really work. Right. It's very easy for us to sit here and just like.
You started this podcast with the intent of creating content. Little did you know that you'll get production gigs coming your way. So they're not related in some extent, but they are related to some extent. Right. That's the beauty of it. And that is why you just get started and you start to realize that it just comes from everywhere.
Cool. So, so with this whole trying so many things, right? I think, like we said, it opens up so many things. So how was your, like you said, maybe you started creating content and then you realized digital space is one way to get inquiries rather than going looking for opportunities. And that itself would spawn into so many more opportunities, right? So once you got this gig with the Everest Premier League, is that the right? Okay, I'm just ensuring I'm getting it right. Was it smooth sailing from then? Did you see a lot of inquiries coming in after that? Or how did you, how do you even get here after that? That's a simpler way to put it.
Well, for starters, there isn't any smooth sailing when you're starting something new, right? From scratch, especially. Well, the shortest answer to what you just asked me is after Nepal, even before that, even after the Karnataka Premier League gig, I thought, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm going to start getting some opportunities or calls my way. After Nepal, that's what I thought. I'm going to start getting some inquiries about work. And then RCB happened, IPL 2019. And I quite literally put myself out there to millions of RCB fans. And I had a fabulous season with the team. And that's when, and after that, I traveled to England for the World Cup for RCB, creating content for Team India. And that's it. Okay, now I'm, this is as big as it comes, and I'm definitely going to start seeing some opportunities. Only to realize that none of that happens, right? And after the IPL and the Cricket World Cup, I had at least a lull of 3 months or 4 months, right? And that's how tough the industry is. That's a very niche space that you're trying to make a space for yourself, right? And there are only few jobs or few roles that you potentially want to go after. And there are very few people going after it. But once you've gotten that role, the client isn't going to be changing anchors or presenters or commentators too often. So someone's doing that, they're going to be doing that for a while, right? So it isn't easy at all. And which is why it's easy for you to get stuck in a rut of just worrying and contemplating and wondering what next and not doing anything about it, because emotionally it can be a little draining, mentally as well, versus you still figure a way out of the rut and just keep putting content on your own. You don't have to rely on a client to hire you to do work for you to do work for, but you can put out your own content to just engage yourself, stimulate that brain, keep that mind engaged, and not get into a rut. And I kid you not, the tough days, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
You know this better than anybody, right? So it is not easy. Deepthi is at work. She leaves in the morning, and the whole day I'm sitting at home. I'm figuring out where my next opportunity is going to be. And I'm asking myself questions that I shouldn't be asking, because the bloody empty mind, it fucks with you in more ways than one, right? And you don't want to keep your mind empty. You don't want to keep it idle, right? So you constantly want to put yourself out of that, right? And I have very good memories of these times as well. After the Karnataka Premier League last year, it was in September, if I'm not wrong, I come back to Singapore because every time I'm off work, I go back to Singapore because that's where Deepthi is based out of Google Singapore. And I would sit at home and then I'm just blank. I don't know what to do. Where is my next opportunity going to come? Because as a freelancer, you're living gig to gig as well. Right? So a month goes by, another couple of weeks go by, and I'm starting to wonder where this is going. And in the interest of being honest and transparent, I even opened the Google Careers website one of those days as well.
Wow.
Because I'm looking at, where the hell is this going? And it's only human for you to ask yourself that, because you're ambitious, you want to do something. But if it's not going your way, 2-3 weeks of tough days, and it's easy for you to give up. It's easy for you to give in, right? But it's really important on those days that you do two things. One is you talk it out to whoever that person is. And for me, it's Deepthi. There are a couple of other people's well-wishers, folks who've really mentored me and helped me out, and I would talk to them. So I would just put everything out. I would just blurt out everything that's on my mind, because unlike the corporate world where I had a manager, teammates, I had people to talk to. Correct. I had acknowledgement when I did good work. My manager would pat me on the back. My rating, my promotion would also acknowledge that, recognize that. Yeah, it's quantifiable. Suddenly I go to a place where I don't have feedback. I don't know what I'm doing right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But you talk it out to whoever. Just lightens it up so much, right? That's one. The second most important thing, don't fucking give in. You don't give in. You just hang in there. You hang in there. You hang in there. Suddenly you'll see light at the end of the tunnel. And how did the Everest opportunity turn out? She left for work in the morning. A close friend of mine called Viru in Singapore, who is relatively well-versed with the space around cricket, got a ping from the CEO of the Everest Premier League from Nepal, because they know each other, saying, we're looking for commentators for our upcoming season. And I've met Viru, and that's why networking is so important in my space. And he was helping me out, figuring out new opportunities. And the first thing that he did is took a screenshot and he sent that ping to me saying, Nav, he's looking for commentators. Talk to him right away. So the next thing I do is I message him, and then we get onto a call. I have a first few conversations with him. He's like, share your profile. I cut the call. I send him my profile. And so I had the YouTube channel to send about. I had the Karnataka Premier League and that school gig that I had. So I had something to send to him. If I had not done that YouTube channel, what would I send to him?
You don't have a portfolio.
I don't have a portfolio. And he had no reason to say yes to me. He called me back. He said, let's go ahead with this. You're going to be alongside Farwez Maroof, the Sri Lankan cricketer, Frances Mackay, an active New Zealand cricketer. She's currently playing as well, and Andrew Leonard from Dublin, who was with the ICC before that. So I was like, wow. And then suddenly I have my first commentary gig.
Out of nowhere.
And I say yes. And he asks me for my availability. God damn it, of course I am available. What in the world am I going to be
think about it.
Let me think. Let me check if my calendar is free. Oh, hell, it's free.
Yeah.
Right? And I told him I'm available. And I had his team send me back the flight tickets in a couple of hours. It was 4 p.m. Deepthi came back home at 5 p.m. And I had this to tell her.
And your bags are packed then.
No, as in I had a few days for me to leave, but I'm like, she's like, none of this happened when I left in the morning, and next thing I know, you're flying to Nepal in a couple of weeks.
Nepal.
Yeah, right? And the reason why this is that much more surprising is because in this space, things takes a while for us to actually get an opportunity from the first conversation, and then they'll be like, okay, we'll come back to you, and then I won't hear from them for a month, and then they'll suddenly call back on the very last minute saying, are you available? Yeah. That's how generally this industry and many industries work.
Right.
And this one was an outlier where I spoke to that person for the first time in the morning and I had my flight tickets in the evening, right? And I'm going back to that point. The tough days are tough. You will stare into outer space and not have anything. You will want to go back. You will want to give in. But if you hang in there, when you see light at the end of the tunnel, there isn't a better feeling.
Right.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. So a lot of people might also take this advice as, I just hang in there and, do nothing, which is so wrong, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway, and like you said, I can relate to that, which is, I think you are your own best friend and your own worst enemy as well.
Of course.
The moment you start getting into this, this sort of rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
You start thinking about one thing and that leads to another. And you could be anywhere. You could be in maybe on MG Road in a bustling street, and in the middle, you're just sitting there and you're just wondering, my God, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Right? Or on the other hand, you might be flying really high on something that's not so great either. You're just like, wow, I made it. I'm killing it here right now. I'm doing this. I'm like one of the best right now.
Of course.
Which is, again, not such a great feeling because it's a good feeling, but it's not a good situation to be in. So, but it comes down to you mindfully aware of where you're at and how you pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Right. And you said, stick in there, but you do everything that's necessary to back you up when that gig comes.
Yeah.
Or when those opportunities come.
So that you're fully prepared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, it's important to stay relevant.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't do that 70 days of content.
Yeah.
I mean, no one, again, a lot of people get this whole consistency thing a little weirdly off because they think, who's watching anyway, right? I mean, initial days, you're absolutely right. No one's watching, which is good for you because you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. You just put out all the content you want. But what will happen over time is you'll slowly start seeing people recognizing your work.
Yeah.
And then you slowly start building a following. And
Absolutely.
It comes down to that, right?
Yeah.
But if you didn't do that 70 days where you didn't hold yourself accountable, there's no way people would have even found you in the first place.
Of course.
Right? And again, when someone comes looking for you and you're sending them a portfolio, you can't send them just one video.
Yeah.
That's not a portfolio. That's a video.
Yeah.
Right. But if you have done work for a long period, right, and you've shown them that, hey, I've been at it. I've been my own boss and I've done this. And they see, okay, wow, these guys have done, or this guy or whoever it is, that this group's done something for an entire year and they've been at it for so long. Then there's something to it and they're so passionate even in the 100th video as they were in the first. That's when they realize, okay, this guy can really come in and take over an entire season as opposed to a one-off game.
Yeah,
something
course.
like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to how you really understand the industry, understand your strengths, kind of find that sort of marriage and, that bond, and then, just double down on it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's easy to get stuck in that rut.
Yeah.
You got to keep yourself occupied. And by the way, while I say this, I'm guilty of doing this myself even now.
Yeah.
You're not gonna learn this overnight. You're not going to master the fact of using your time productively every single day. It's not like you finish your gig today, you take 1 day's rest, and the day after tomorrow, you're going to start creating new content again. You will go through some tough days. You will contemplate, you will speculate, you will think more than you ever have to. It's fine. And I'm telling you, I'm guilty of this even today. But I'm trying to constantly get myself out of the rut. What is it that I can do to engage myself during the lull times? Because when the busy times come, it's good times. Right? So you just need to hang in there during the lulls. When the time does come, you will make merry for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think another thing I want to talk about is a little more on the monetary side of things.
Yeah.
So for instance, you spoke about how fulfilling it is to do this work from a skill perspective or professional perspective, or just keeping yourself occupied, right? Like you said, you're an ambitious person.
Yeah.
So you want to keep doing something, right?
Yeah.
And anyone who gets into, or let's say quits their job, is obviously ambitious, and that's why they're doing it, unless they, I don't know, plan to sit at home, but whatever, right? So if they quit their job and they want to do something, they need something to keep them going, keep them fueled. But now let's forget the aspect of you not having to do something for 2 to 3 months. How does the whole monetary aspect come into picture? Because a lot of people are worried about that as well.
Look, that's why I told you have to figure out your financial plan, right? In our case, we planned it in such a way where we accounted for me earning zero for 3 to 5 years. That's the planning that we did. We were just being on the safer side. So even if I do earn anything in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be a bonus. But in our financial planning, even with our financial consultant and between Deepthi and myself, we planned that when we decided to take that call of me quitting Google, it was assuming that I will not have an income for 3 to 5 years, right? So we only took her income into consideration, figured out our expenses, figured out whether this can do the job, and it did. So then we were able to move forward. So to everyone watching this, figure out what your plan is. It does it in my case, I have my spouse helping me out. In your case, it could be someone else. It could be yourself. It could be your savings. It can be anything for that matter. It could be you still doing your job and doing this part-time. So there are so many different things, and it's subjective. It's individualistic. Everyone's situation is different. So figure out that plan, because the one thing that can cripple you is lack of money, and it will demotivate you, and it makes it easier for you to give in and give up if you're constantly thinking about the money aspect. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable on that front, and if you are, it gives you the peace of mind and just the presence to do what you want to do. So, and that's a very important, if I have to say, that is the most important point, is the money aspect of it. Figure out your plan for that. If you have that sorted, then it gives you so much more time to do something like this.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to just quit, not have money at all, to even take care of your daily expenses, and constantly be in the fear that I don't know when this is going to stop, and when I'm going to reach a stage where I'll have to start borrowing money or anything for that matter, right? So you want to keep it safe as well. So I think the money aspect is very important for sure.
Right. I don't know where I heard this. It's probably another show itself, where you don't jump out of a plane without assembling the safety bag or the parachute, right?
Yeah.
You have it all set up,
Yeah,
and
of
then you
course.
know for the fact, and gives you that reassurance that, you know what, when I pull this string, it's going to help me on the way down. But there's no point trying to figure it out while you're falling, because it's too late.
Even with me having a very thorough plan in place with Deepti's income, and we know what it looks like, the money aspect still plays on my mind as well. And I'm just being very, very honest. I'll be lying if I said that I don't think about the money because the money is coming from somewhere else. No, because I independently want to get to a stage where I'm very stable as well, right? So it is something that will bother you every now and then. You're going to think about it. Obviously, you will, especially in the starting years, because that's when you're sort of making a name for yourself. But when the money does come, you're happy with it, right? So just make sure that your financial plan is sound.
Yeah, and I think in a situation like this, right, you get very comfortable with knowing that there's no money coming in.
Yeah.
You get it? That's another thing that I have taken away very, very strongly the last year or so, where although my company's made a lot of money with the F&B, and then we took a huge hit with lockdown and all of that, I try to get very comfortable with the fact that, okay, I don't need to buy a lot of, nonsense that I, used to buy earlier. And at the same time, get very comfortable and, relax with the fact that, okay, this is how it's going to be, because you've told yourself
Yeah.
that it's a 2-year plan, or it's a 1-year plan, or it's a 3-year plan. You know, this is what you signed up for. So, it's not like if you had this, let's say, this sort of discussion with your neighbor,
Yeah.
there's a good chance you'll probably end up in an argument because you have someone else to blame, but there's no one else to blame here but yourself, because you have signed up for it.
Yeah.
But it's about telling yourself, like you said, on a regular basis when you get into that whole rut, because like you said, time and again that happens.
Yeah.
You get into that thing and you're like, wow, I mean, 2 months of not working, or
Yeah.
it's not even not working because you're doing whatever is necessary.
Yeah.
But then the industry is probably not looking at something there, or you have not just found the right thread to pull on,
Yeah.
and all of that, they're not come looking for you. But like you said, when it comes,
Yeah.
and you're just like, wow, this is just great stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you do have your ups, you do have your downs, but you
course.
can't really let any of that really, bog you down, or, really get you to stop doing what you like doing.
Yeah.
Right. I think, okay, one thing I want to actually talk about, which I should have probably led with, is how did you find something like this? I mean, why sports commentary is something that is not really seen, or is not something a lot of people aspire to be. And it's, like you said, a lot of people want to be Virat Kohli, right? It's very easy for us to get, and I think we mentioned this in one of the previous episodes as well, which is inherently we're all very childish,
Yeah.
right? We tend to always look at these spectacular roles, like either being a sports person or being someone in, people who you used to look up to when you were younger are still like big people now, even actors and all of that, which is just great, right? But how did you find this niche? I mean, is this something that you have always wanted to do? Have you always aspired to speak about the sport as opposed to playing the sport?
No, it wasn't always the case.
Okay.
I think very similar to what I had mentioned is cricket, obviously, just like gazillion people in this country, everyone loves the game.
Yeah.
And it was always special for me. I've always been very close to cricket, played a little bit of cricket myself. And obviously the dream was to, continue playing and play for the country. But then we realized that we're not Virat Kohli. So... And the speaking aspect of it came in Google, which I spoke about, all the opportunities that came my way. And it was literally a question of marrying the two, because I liked holding the mic. I love cricket. And I was like, I want to be a cricket broadcaster. And especially over the last 5-10 years or so, I've always paid extra attention to what the commentator is saying or what the anchor is saying. And for some reason, it intrigued me. It got me thinking. It was something that I wanted to do myself. I pictured myself doing that. So, and that's the thing. When you start to realize that you want to do something, you picture yourself doing that. You visualize yourself, right? I always visualized myself in the commentary box.
With Harsha Bhogle.
With Harsha Bhogle, Ravi Shastri, Harsha Bhogle,
It's happening soon.
Tony Gregg, Mark
sure.
Nicholas, some of my favorite commentators.
Yeah.
And I pictured myself in the comm box. What was I going to say at that very moment when that thing happened, right? And then that's why it starts to grow on you.
Right.
And when I realized that this is what I like doing, this is what I'm fairly good at, let me give this a shot. And that's when my dream of becoming a sports broadcaster or a sports commentator, cricket commentator started. And, Deepthi, she every time this was when I was in Google, every time when the few days that we would come down to Bangalore to spend time with the folks, when we're driving past the Chinnaswamy Stadium, look, we're going past your office. She would just say it in jest. She would just say that, right? And when I finished my first season with RCB, and the home ground being the Chinnaswamy. And the next time when she said that, it actually was my office in many ways for those 2 months during the IPL. Yeah. And that got me so emotional. It got me thinking that it can happen. Dreams can come true. Yeah. And I had never imagined myself being a part of a franchise, especially the club that I support. Right? We're so used to seeing these athletes and these cricketers and taking selfies with them. Little did I know that, in a little while, I'm going to be traveling with them, eating with them, staying with them, and being part of an IPL franchise. And so RCB has been all of that and more for me in these last 18 months. It's been a surreal experience, just rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in the cricketing industry, right? And doing what I love doing. That's what makes it even more special. It's not like I'm doing a desk job, but with RCB. I'm doing what I absolutely love with RCB. I'm traveling the world and I'm talking freaking cricket. What more can I ask for? Right? And the money will come. It'll come. And it's already started to come, and I'm happy and I'm very grateful. And I had this realization point even when I was in the UK. I was traveling for RCB, but we were following Team India everywhere they went, and we were creating content, beautiful feature stories of the UK, of cricket fans, of the games. It was just turned out to be such a surreal experience for those 45 days. And at one instance, I was holding the mic outside the Manchester Stadium ahead of India's game, and I was talking, and fans around me jumping, shouting in joy and anticipation of the game ahead. And in my mind, for a split second, I remember that moment so well. And the only thought that I had in my mind was, I'm in the UK, traveling, getting paid for this, and I'm covering Team India, and I'm talking cricket. And this is my job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Right? So that is the beauty about going after something that you're really, really passionate about. There are the tough days, but when you get to do what you want to do, the feeling is... there is no feeling quite like it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tend to not even explore these opportunities the moment they hit their late 20s or early 30s, right?
Yeah.
Because they are looking at stability and just how society looks at things. You did this, if I'm not wrong, early 30s is when you decided that, you know what, it's high time I do this, and it's now or never.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to those people? Because at the end of the day, I know it's what you said, which is it's never too late.
Yeah.
You need to get started. But
Yeah.
like you said, you're according to your pyramid as well.
Yeah.
It's those first 10 years
Yeah.
after you graduate or while you're graduating where
Yeah.
you can really explore and
Yeah.
all of that. But there's still people who have found it later on in their lives
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Right? But I think with you are a very living testament of what's happened, which is in a couple of years itself, you were able to carve out spaces which you itself didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you have to say to people who are maybe in that space where they're like, is it too late to start? Because the answer is obviously no.
Yeah.
It's never. But yeah.
Is it too late to start? Look, here's the thing. It's amazing what the current generation, I don't even know if I bloody sound old when I say this, but the folks who are between the age of 18 to 25, they freaking amaze me. They inspire me. I take inspiration from everyone and anyone around me. But what they are doing is just unbelievable, right? And they're doing it at a young age. They're just fearless. They're going after what they really want to do,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I never looked at how old I was as an obstacle or a barrier in terms of what I want to do. I'm like, okay, this is what I like doing. How does it matter how old I am? I'm just going to give it a shot, right? Unless there is something which is age bound. You can't get into an India under-19 team if you're 22. That's obvious, right? But I can't think of too many things that's going to stop you from doing it because you are old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And for me, that was never a problem. Right? So why should that be a problem?
Yeah.
If anything, the years that you have spent doing something has given you some sort of maturity, experience, maybe some extra money in the bank account for you to be a little more sure about. So look at it that way. I don't think that the age should come in way of you trying out something. Right? So, and people around you are doing at the age of 18, 20, 21, 25. If they can do it, damn it, you can do it for sure.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about, is it too late? And so think about it. You have two choices. You can either, even if it is at whatever age you're considering it, you have one way to look at it is, it's probably too late, I shouldn't do it. But the other choice you have is, I do it and I figure out if it's something that works for me. Either ways, you look back several years later and you'll be very happy that you gave it a shot and you did it. right? So I don't think the age should be an issue at all. At least in my case, I never let that become an issue. If anything, it only pushed me to go after a few things when I looked at people a lot younger going after what they wanted. If anything, it pushed me to go after what I wanted to do because it does inspire me.
Right. Absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think this is a good place to wrap things up, dude. I mean, we spoke about so many things, which is just great. One thing I ask of all our guests, which is, what's one last message you want to put out there? I know we spoke about a lot of these things, but if there's one thing that you would want to really hone in on or maybe mention or something that we didn't even talk about, what would that be? And you can take a few seconds too. But it's going on the final shot. No, I'm just-
Look, if there is one thing that I want to tell them, it's probably I've already mentioned this on this chat, is every one of us, me, you, everyone listening to this, we all have this one thing that constantly keeps coming up in our mind. It's our inner self talking to us about what we want our life to be, how we want it to be, and what we want to be doing. Visualize that. And you don't need to try too hard because every now and then that's playing out in your mind. All you need to ask yourself is, what is it that you need to do to make that come to life? It's not like you have something in your mind, but you go back to your desk job and do something which is completely different and you aren't very happy about it. Just listen to that voice, visualize what you want to go after, and it'll happen by itself. Ask yourself, what is it that I need to do to get this picture in my mind to make it a picture in real life? And once you have that sort of clarity, which every one of us do, every one of us have some sense of how we want our life to be. We just keep asking ourselves that question. Once you have that clarity, as cliched as it sounds, just do it. That's the only thing. And the biggest learning for me has been, you take the plunge and you just do it. And you'll realize that there's nothing to regret, nothing to look back on.
Awesome. Cool, dude. That is a good place to wind things up. And
my pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for having me on the chat.
Yeah.
Practically everything that we discussed is something that applies to you, that applies to me, and many other folks listening to us as well. So I wish you all the very best.
Thanks, man.
And hopefully this is the start of much bigger things to come.
I sure hope so too.
Yeah.
And where can we send our viewers and listeners? I mean, where can they find you online?
You can find me at Navneeth Krishna on Instagram. So you'll see a whole bunch of RCB stuff, guys, because they call me the RCB 12th man, and I absolutely love being called that. So you can call me, you can catch me at Navneeth Krishna on Instagram, Facebook, Navneeth Krishna, YouTube. I have a little channel called Quick Single as well, and Twitter as well. So yeah, practically every platform. Yeah, I'm in the content space. I have to, goddammit, be there. Yeah.
I'll have them all linked anyway in the show notes. But cool, dude. Thank you so much for making time.
My pleasure. Thanks, man.
This is great. Like I tell all my guests, and I truly mean it, we'll definitely have you back and we'll explore a very different, set of topics altogether. Super. And maybe by the time we get you back here, you might have a lot more to offer. And
hopefully.
Absolutely. You'll talk to us about how it's been conversing with Harsha Bhog.
We did have a chat with Harsha as well. And quite a surreal moment that was for me, a little fanboy moment, but it was fun chatting with him as well.
We'll soon be sitting in the comm box with him, though,
sure.
Which is awesome. Cool, dude. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Akash.
I guess that's it. That's episode 22 for you. If you did find this episode useful and insightful, then do consider sharing this episode with your family or friends. And if you do have a circle of podcast friends, I'm not sure if these circles exist, but if you do know someone who does consume podcasts either over audio or video, then do consider sharing this episode or the show with them. Cool then. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.